Hi, today I'm gonna do the life stories tag. I was officially tagged to do this by CJ from CJ Reads. That was, I don't know, a while ago. So it's taken me some time to get around to it, but it's like a tag video about memoir, autofiction, biography, autobiography, which I love those categories of reading, so I feel like it's something I really need to do. And I loved the other videos from people that filmed this. Iggy did it, Hannah, others that I am forgetting now, but I've really enjoyed to watch these, also because it's given me some great recommendations for things that I should read in this kind of category. Let's just get started so that this is not a 35-minute video. Question number 1, do you have a preference for biography or autobiography? For sure my preference is autobiography, because I prefer to hear a story about someone's life from the person whose life it is. However, I'm not against a biography if I'm really interested in the subject or the person, or if the person doesn't have any kind of, like if they're a mysterious figure and they have no like writing about themselves that they wrote, then I would pick up a biography about them. First, I would go for an autobiography because I like to hear from the person's own voice. Question number 2, do you gravitate towards a specific area like sports, celebrity, history, etc.? None of those categories I gravitate towards. Actually, celebrity, it's like a question for me because I like to read a lot of like memoirs or essays or things, or, you know, autobiographical stuff from like famous artists, which I guess you could call celebrities, like in their field. I don't really gravitate towards like a pop star, or like friends of mine have told me about like memoirs of like comedians, like famous comedians, and that just also doesn't really pull me necessarily. I would say if there's a category I would gravitate towards, it would be someone who works in the art field, so that could be anything, and kind of, yeah, talking about their life and talking about how they became an artist and what is their process. That is very interesting to me. Number 3, have you ever read the story of someone and in doing so changed your opinion of them for better or worse? And give an example. I can't think of anyone that I've read that it changed my opinion of them in a negative way, because I read about people that I am interested in, so then I get just more information or things that I didn't know about them, and then like it kind of expands their life and image in my head, in a positive way. But I never really read someone that like I didn't like and then it changed my opinion about them. Like I don't read a lot of things about like, say, really controversial figures who like are maybe unlikable. So I guess I don't really have a good answer for that question. Number 4, must you always know who the person is before picking up their life story? You know, actually, I mean, no. However, I'm rarely finding myself picking up a memoir or an autobiography of someone who I don't know anything about. I mean, with Blueberries, I didn't know anything about Elena Savage, and I just, you know, picked her memoir up by recommendation. But I am mostly gravitating towards artists that I know. Most of the time I want to read about someone that I'm already inspired by or already interested by, so that's where I would go first. I know a lot of people and a lot of like booktube friends on here that, you know, read a lot of memoirs from people about different things, and they're not people that they know. So I would love to do more of that, to read more people's life stories that aren't figures that I'm already interested in. And like, for example, with Blueberries, Like, it's one of the most incredible pieces of writing I've ever read, and I didn't know of her before that. So for sure, I would love to expand and just read more memoirs by people I'm not familiar with. Number 5, have you ever met someone whose biography / autobiography you've read? No. But, I mean, I would love to. That would be a great experience. Yeah, I mean, I would love to meet Patti Smith. I feel like if I could meet Patti Smith, my life would be, something would be like completed for me. I would die to meet her. I realized that if I could come up with a fictional family, I mean, I love my parents, obviously, but we're talking about like fictional parents. I would want like my mom and dad to be Patti Smith and David Lynch, and I would want my grandmother to be Pina Bausch. So this is my inspirational family. Number 6, what do you think about books that are described as semi-autobiographical? I love that. I also think, I wonder, even in like, you know, something that's not considered or doesn't say explicitly that it's autobiographical, like there is something, I'm sure there's something that goes into a piece of fiction that is somehow inspired by the author's life. Like there is, in my head, there's like no way that something, even like a small part, doesn't come from a root in the real life of a person, and that can be on different volumes and like levels, I guess. But yeah, I'm really into like semi-autobiographical stuff. Earth Were Briefly Gorgeous, Freshwater by Akwaeke Emezi, Outline by Rachel Cusk. That's like autofiction. I really like autofiction a lot. Number 7, give an example of a life story that really surprised you. One of my favorite books ever, which I'll get. This is one of my all-time favorite books. This is Walk Through Walls by Marina Abramovic. She's a Serbian performance artist. This is where I'm wondering if I gravitate towards celebrity, because she is a celebrity. Anyway, there's so much in this woman's life that surprised me. Like I was reading it and I was like, you just can't even write this shit. You can't make this shit up. Like you could not write a crazier piece of fiction than what exists inside this person's actual life. I would say Walk Through Walls like surprised me in many different ways. Number 8, what biographies, autobiographies, memoirs, etc. are currently on your TBR? I want to read more stuff on Pina Bausch, so I need to read her biography. That's like in a case when I would read someone's biography, because there's not a lot that she's actually written about her own life and about her own work and process, so I'm gonna have to get that through someone else's voice. I really want to read David Lynch's memoir called Room to Dream. I'm a little scared to read like that many pages, which is why I haven't picked it up. But I want to start switching my perception on that and be like, this is someone that I always want more of, and so a bigger book is better. I'm gonna start to try to think about it like that. Know My Name by Chanel Miller, I think. I've heard from a lot of people is just incredible, so I would love to read that. There's a memoir called A History of My Brief Body by Billy Ray Belcourt that Iggy read and she said was amazing, incredible, and she told me I would really like it, so that's definitely on my TBR. I've read almost all of Patti Smith, who is like one of my favorite writers, if not my favorite, and I haven't read M Train. So that's definitely on my TBR. I need to read M Train. There's a Japanese artist who you may be familiar with, Yayoi Kusama. She is a Japanese artist. She does like stuff with polka dots a lot of times. That's how you would probably recognize her work. So she has an autobiography she wrote called Infinity Net, which I really want to read. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson I also haven't read, and that's supposed to be an amazing memoir, and Rebecca was talking about it. So I love Maggie Nelson. Bluets is like one of my favorite books ever. So The Argonauts is on my TBR also. A Life's Work by Rachel Cusk I haven't read, which is her reflection on motherhood. And there's a memoir called My Broken Language by Quiada Alegria Hudes. I am sure I'm butchering that. That's supposed to be amazing. Hannah from Let's Talk About Books Baby raved about this, and I trust her. So I definitely want to read that one. I also just want to read more memoirs and autobiographies by visual artists, cinematographers, choreographers, actors, art people. I can't think of all of them that I want to read. I would like to read more memoirs by painters, because specifically this book that I have, which is The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. He's a painter, and this is like a painter talking about painting, but you could just do this, look at it, read few like lines, and it's about painting, but it's about life, and like you don't need to be a painter to like take things from this and apply them into your own experience of living in the world and doing anything. So this is a gorgeous book. My biggest mentor from my high school, who's now a good friend of mine, she gave this to me when I graduated school. So yeah, she's amazing for that also. Number 9, whose life story did you find particularly hard going, either emotionally difficult to read or very boring? Well, because Akwaeke Emezi's novel Freshwater is autobiographical in the sense that everything that most of what happened to the main character Ada, I guess, has happened to them. So, and that just is heartbreaking and very hard. The kind of trauma in that book is heavy. So the fact that it's derived from Emezi's actual life is hard. And I never read something very boring. If it's very, very boring, I'm not reading it anymore. Number 10, is there anyone you know personally who you feel should have their life story written down? I feel like this is everyone's kind of pick, at least of, the people that I know Iggy and CJ both said their dads. And I would say both of my parents, because my mom was a professional dancer on Broadway in New York. And my dad was a pianist, like a musician, rehearsal pianist on Broadway also at the same time. They were there at the same time. So like New York City Broadway life in the 80s is literally when my parents were there. And I just feel like the stories that they must have are insane. Such an iconic time of life. So I feel like both my parents, I would love to read their life story. Actually, I started emailing them with some prompts each month that they should write about so that I would collect reflections that they wrote. And I stopped doing that just because, life, it's hard to be consistent with those kinds of things. But it's reminding me now that I should really start that again. Number 11, have you read any diaries or collections of letters? If so, which one did you find interesting? So I was thinking about this. I read fragments from a diary of Marilyn Monroe, and I find Marilyn Monroe so fascinating, so interesting, and also just says something bigger about media, what we do to a person that's in the spotlight and the celebrity, how these are normal people, but it's actually other people that make this one person into something that they can no longer live inside. And I thought that those diaries were super, super interesting and very heartbreaking. I really like old cinema, Hollywood. Actually, there's a biography about the Chateau Marmont hotel in LA, and it's like a biography about a building. But I feel like the stories in there would be really interesting. And last question, what are a few life story books you would recommend us to read? Wow, this question is loaded. I feel like any Patti Smith. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm the one that's gonna say Patti Smith, but like all of her work, I feel like is a must. This life story is really interesting. I mean, I think for people that are interested in her work, would find it particularly interesting. However, I do think that it's very gripping, even if you are not a fan. Blueberries by Elena Savage, that memoir is incredible. Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion is about the passing of her husband. And I tried to read this book a few times, but I was too fragile in my own life to kind of read that. But I think and when I finally got around to finishing it, that book is amazing. And yeah, so that's sort of a life story I feel like people should read. So difficult, because I feel like I read a lot of these things and I should have a lot of recommendations for you, but now I cannot think. If I think of any more, I will put them in the description bar. I have a feeling like there's one particular book that I really recommend that it's not coming to my head. In terms of autofiction, I think Outline by Rachel Cusk is amazing. But for now, I think that's what I can think of. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave recommendations in the downstairs. And I would love to get new titles in this genre because I love to read this kind of thing. So please leave your faves down below. Tag Rebecca because I know that she has not done this yet and I need her to do it. So this is an extra push. And anyone else who wants to do it, please, please do it. Carolyn, have you done this? Also, Anna Wallace-Johnson, I think you need to do this tag because I feel like you're gonna have some great recs for this. So thanks so much for watching. I felt like I wanted it to be a short one, but it probably ends up being a long one. So big hugs. I hope you're all doing well and you're safe and healthy and happy. And that's it. I'll talk to you later.